So we were very niche, right? As rigging and load handling, that's a very niche provider across all these industries. And then we try to achieve every modality of training. So we had developed virtual reality-based crane operator simulators, even like for tower cranes or mobile cranes, but even ones for like a nuclear power station. They've got these cylindrical cranes. They're called polar cranes. So instead of bridging on an X axis, or XY, I don't even know what they call it actually. They bridge is this like this.
Oh wow!
And the trolley, of course, keeps going on the bridge, but like it just goes this way, and it's on these. In the nuclear plants, some types of nuclear plants have these ice condenser units. Those are the cylindrical buildings that you see, and those people that run in those they're taking out like the reactor shield and rods, nuclear rods out.
All kinds of crazy stuff.
Totally.
Tradesmen built America, not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. Did you ever think growing up that you would be training people how to be better people or better at what they do?
I kind of grew up in a training center, so it was funny. My dad was an Eagle Scout, and his story a little bit, it's interesting. So he was helping run a Eagle Scout camp that had over 1,000 kids come through every summer. And, when you got a bunch of Boy Scouts, you got to figure out how to get them active and get them learning skills and their shooting ranges and all sorts of stuff to do at the camp. And then he ultimately started our training business with my mom. In the training center, we did a lot of training on site, of course, but the training center had folks coming through all the time of different craft backgrounds and whatnot. So, every summer I got to work there, got to run the cranes or fix stuff, usually nothing glorious, right? It's take out the garbage, paint this, paint that, a lot of maintenance stuff, of course. But we had, mobile cranes, overhead cranes, a lot of rigging and load handling training, forklifts, telehandlers. I guess it's funny. Going through that as a, teenager and whatnot, I never really, I didn't really fully appreciate, of course, what we were doing.
Right. It was just a place to work.
Totally.
You're making a little money.
Totally. Yeah. And as a kid as an entrepreneur, it was such a blessing because you just learned so much from, I learned so much from my folks, just hearing them talk about the business here and there. But ultimately, getting around, we call them students, of course, but these are professional, boilermakers, pipe fitters, ironworkers, et cetera. And never thought I would get back in the business. That's probably the more interesting thing. So, the guidance my dad gave us growing up was, I don't really care what you do, but make sure you do something that helps people.
Absolutely.
That's what you should shoot for in your career. So
I love that.
Yeah.
So you graduate high school, you go off to college.
Yep.
When you went to college, were you already thinking, I may get back into the business, or what were your plans?
No, I was going pro baseball, man. I was
there you go. No, I love it.
That was the goal. It was, and it's funny how, had a lot of success in high school, had some decent success at junior college, and then I got school paid for, but I couldn't get beyond that. And as a college athlete, it's funny how the goal, every year the goal kind of got lower.
Right. It's like, maybe. Well, at least I'm getting a great education.
Exactly. I was going pro. My senior year of high school, I was definitely going pro, and by my senior year of college, I'd love to play 1 year in the minors, but no, I had no intention. I really didn't think about the training business and my parents' business. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I actually wanted to I was thinking about getting into finance and financial planning and that sort of stuff. I like numbers. I like strategy and whatnot. But I remember my wife and I went to a dinner one time, and it was during college. My wife and I met and married in freshman year of college.
There you go.
So, the waiter asked like what we were doing, and I told him that maybe my career trajectory was, financial planning or whatever. And he said, "So you want to make money off other people's money?" And I was like, man, I didn't like how that sounded.
I know.
It was just like, I don't want to do that. So after college, I did work for an estate planner through an insurance company for about a year. I don't think I lasted more than 12 months, and, had a lot of success, but almost killed my marriage. And wasn't for me. It
Is
wasn't
it from putting in so many hours, or
it was just,
it's a numbers game?
yeah,
You got to be in front of more people to get more sales.
That's right. And the culture was great work ethic culture, but 12-hour days, pretty common. Saturdays, we're there from 8 to noon. And so just, I love working. Like I get passionate about what I do, but
I could tell that whenever we talked last night.
Yeah. So it's gotta be a passion. I think everyone's got to find, obviously what drives them and what they want to do. And I did love the aspect of helping people with their gaining what they had, right? They were stewards of what they had and helping them gain with that. But ultimately it wasn't, I was mostly not excited about the scale it could become. It was a public company, so a huge company, and just didn't, I wasn't making a big enough impact for what I wanted to do in my life.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. What were your parents teaching through their training center at the time?
Yeah, ITI is actually it's funny, in 1986, they founded the company. It was called Wire Rope and Rigging Consultants. So it was around wire rope and rigging, loads handling training, right? So some companies call it hoisting and material handling, or
the union calls it rigging.
Yep, rigging. You bet. Yeah. So it's a cool activity because it hits like every trade. Just about, especially in the industrial side of the world, right? Iron workers, pipe fitters, boilermakers, operating engineers, carpenters, electricians, et cetera. It's an activity that some of them do depending on the job site they're at, right? And then, we really didn't do much work in the commercial or residential space whatsoever. So it was really around rigging and load handling initially, and not just how to do rigging and load handling, but inspection of those tools and whatnot. And then obviously working with cranes, mobile cranes, overhead cranes, in manufacturing environments, pulp and paper, steel, power gen, that sort of stuff. And it was a great training business, and it still is. Because again, that is an incredibly almost recession-proof type of market, because you're just in so many different end markets. And again, it was a high-risk activity that most companies don't have a lot of in-house not talent around it. It's just like an activity that's done so infrequently typically, or it's done frequently, but there's just not enough critical mass to like put a lot of team members internally. So that's where we really come alongside the maintenance teams or the production teams and their training managers and whatnot to help build sustainable programs that included, in 1986, it was all hands-on training. And then fast forward into, 2015, 2020. A lot of online stuff. Yeah. A lot of simulation now as well, but you just can't replace the hands-on. Rigging, our training center, you should come see it. We got one in Houston, we got one in Washington State, Memphis, Edmonton, et cetera. And it's just like there's usually a mobile crane on the site. There's 4 or 5 acres typically. The indoor facility has these load nests. These are like 13 foot by 5 foot skids, and there's about 5 or 6 components on them, like all sorts of components that are 1 to 3,000 pounds each. So like you and I'd be on a team and we'd be charged with unpacking that load nest,
right?
And then repacking it. We would jack and roll it. We would take loads like that, and we have a big like basically 20 foot by 20 foot by 20 foot cube of 4-inch steel tubing that we use chain hoists to drift loads like Boilermakers do, and a lot of.
So, being a plumbing instructor in the union,
yeah.
I'd go up to Ypsilanti every year for the instructor training program. And rigging was the one course, and I didn't get to take it because I was a plumber and we didn't use it much. But the instructor for rigging, he took that rigging course, and that is the most intense course. And you've got to make like a 80 or 85 or 90 on that one to pass.
Sure.
And he didn't.
Wow.
That is the one course they say more people do not pass that course at Ypsilanti. So 1 week, you're there for a week.
Sure.
Really, you're there for 4 days.
Yeah.
But that's the course that it scares the heck out of people.
Yeah.
Because, they've got a skid or whatever it is, and they rig it up with the hoists and chain falls or whatever's on it.
Yeah.
And then you get it up, you get it over above this contraption they have built. And like you have to shift it and lower it down in there and bring it back up and float it and all these different things, and you've only got like, say, 30 minutes
Yeah.
to get this off the truck into the hole.
Totally.
And it's like, go.
Yeah.
And
Intense.
I mean, you see them out there running and trying to make things happen. That has always been intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm always people, don't tell me I can't put a square peg in a round hole. I'm going to show you there's a way.
Yeah, totally.
And I loved watching them do that. So anytime in between classes and stuff like that, we'd all try to run out there and watch the rigging class.
Yeah.
Watch them float stuff in and this and that.
Totally.
And it was neat stuff. Did your parents expand into other things to train in, or is that something you did later?
Yeah. I joined the company in 2009. They were already into all the rigging things, right? So inspection and like we call it rigging applications. So how to do hands-on rigging with any sort of load handling device is the new ASME B30 term.
There you go.
It's not a crane. It's a load handling device or load handling equipment. I'm sorry, LHE. And then they were definitely doing operator training, like overhead crane operator, mobile crane operator.
And those guys make good money.
Oh yeah. All these roles. Yeah.
How much do you think crane operators make right now?
Gosh, I'd have to go look at there's a few sites I track sometimes that show the hourly averages across the country, but I got to imagine it's for journeymen, right? And seasoned journeymen, probably north of 50 or $60 an hour, maybe more than that.
Not bad to climb a ladder, sit on a chair, climb back down.
Tower crane operators are really, those are tough to get. Like those jobs I hear, because there might only be a dozen tower cranes up in a city, but mobile crane, I tell people for every tower crane you see, you might see 100, or there might be 100 mobile cranes that exist. You might not see them all. For every mobile crane you see, there's another 500 overhead cranes and hoists. So that's funny how that trickles down. A lot of OEs obviously are just running mobile and towers, right? Most plants and whatnot are just people running overhead cranes are production people or maintenance people or specialized craft, depending on the job,
So overhead crane built into a building.
Totally.
It's on rails. They've got a lift.
Yeah.
We would call that like just a hoist and gantry type thing.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of sizes, right? Like steel mills have, 400 ton overhead cranes that are 100-foot spans. There's a cab up on top, right? That the person's going back and forth on. And then there's stuff as small as it's a handheld remote and it's a 1-ton hoist or something like that. So just on a jib, right?
Pretty neat stuff.
Yeah.
So tell everybody who you are and what you do now.
Yeah. So my name's Zach Parnell. I'm the EVP of strategy for Interplay Learning. And I mentioned ITI before. ITI was the company that my parents founded in 1986. I joined them in 2009, really helped them digitize a lot of things and figure out how do we marry the great instructor-led training we have with different e-learning solutions and simulation-based products as well and training solutions. We sold the business to Interplay Learning in 2024, just last year. And Interplay is based here locally or somewhat here in Austin.
You bet.
And,
that's close enough. That's my favorite town.
Yeah. So I love it. My wife and we moved to Austin last August. So now I'm the transplant. Grew up in Washington where there's transplants everywhere. It's like, I think 10% of people grew up in Washington nowadays. And so it's been a blast. Interplay, again, I really covered the scope of what ITI did. So we were very niche, right? As rigging and load handling. That's a very niche provider across all these industries. And then we try to achieve every modality of training. So we had developed virtual reality-based crane operator simulators, even like for tower cranes or mobile cranes, but even ones for like a nuclear power station. They've got these cylindrical cranes. They're called polar cranes. So instead of bridging on an X axis, or XY, I don't even know what they call it actually. They bridge is this like this.
Oh wow.
And the trolley, of course, keeps going on the bridge, but like it just goes this way. And it's on these, in the nuclear plants, some types of nuclear plants have these ice condenser units. Those are the cylindrical buildings that you see. And those people that run in those they're taking out like the reactor shield and rods, nuclear rods out.
All kinds of crazy stuff.
Totally.
And nowadays they're building reactors on trailers.
Totally.
Rolling them into cities.
SMRs, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just went to the American Nuclear Society meeting in Florida about a month ago, and it was the training conference for that industry, and everyone there is just ecstatic about SMRs. And I mean, I think in America we're restarting 3 plants that were mothballed.
All I know is that the Secretary of Homeland Defense Kristi Noem. Used to be the governor of South Dakota.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And she is all about, because they're building data centers up there.
Yep.
And she's helped them get it approved where they can just roll an 18-wheeler up.
Totally.
Drop off a nuclear reactor.
Yeah.
Plug it in, and there's your power.
That's right.
You're making it right there.
Yeah, that's right.
That is crazy.
Yeah, SMRs on facility sites, not at a centralized power station, right? So, yeah, on-premise generation. And I don't know where we're at with all that. Like, I know that I met a few companies that were developing those. Of course, Westinghouse and others have them. I just don't know if they're, where we're at in deployment. But you're totally right. The data centers and AI are driving the demand, right?
That's what's taking up the most power nowadays.
Yeah.
So what does Interplay teach now?
Yeah. So again, ITI was really on the industrial side of things. Interplay was really initially on the residential and commercial side of the world. So they really got started teaching HVAC technicians, plumbing, electrical, et cetera. Got really big into facilities maintenance. So, and what's really powerful about Interplay, there's a big business decision to sell your business, right?
Oh, yeah.
So as a family business, I was like, my key word for my life is steward, because I didn't start this business. This is my parents' baby, and I had a chance to join the company.
And then you acquired it.
I didn't plan, I didn't know that was going to be the plan.
Right.
I actually joined them to maybe help them sell it. But in 7 years in 2016, my wife and I started acquiring it. And so we got to a point, as organically growing pretty much only, we got to a point where we really saw we had to make some big investments in technology, like huge investments, or go find that technology partner. And that was Interplay. And I wouldn't say we had the financing model right. Like, as an organically funded company, just through your retained earnings,
you bet,
you can only grow so fast, right? We were probably growing, 15 to 20% per year on average, which is fine and great, healthy.
Unless you learn corporate credit, which we talked about last night.
That's no
Luckily,
leverage.
I'm learning it. So it's a whole nother way to go.
Yeah, totally. And obviously, as a family business, we're pretty risk averse. I think I'm the most risk tolerant person in our family, but and my parents did just such a cool job of letting me experiment in the business. And I tell people I lost us more money than anybody else in the business, some bad decisions, but they should write a book just on how to. There's a lot of baby boomers, selling businesses or transitioning businesses that if you've never done it before, there's some best practices out there. And
there's companies now that'll help you do
totally,
that.
Yeah, fully on consulting companies. Yeah, so. Anyways, we really got up to that. I'd say we had we wanted to grow faster. We knew we had a market opportunity, and the financing organically funded is not the way to do that. And then technology perspective, Interplay has built this really quick story. They had a guy join their company. So Doug Donovan's the CEO. He started the company, I think it was 2011, and then in 2016, a gentleman joined his company from Pixar. So, basically, Interplay has built, led by this person, an incredible tool set on top of Unity. So for game development, we build a lot of simulations and even e-learning content. So there's two main game development engines. One is Unreal Engine. That's the company that makes Fortnite, the game. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of games built on Unreal. And then Unity is the other big one. And Unity's, they're both half and half of the market. Unity, I think Microsoft's a part, investor, et cetera. I think they're both still private. A lot of simulation, especially VR based stuff, has been done in Unity. Anyways, the team in 2016 built a tool on top of Unity. So it leverages the game engine features, but this tool allows people like you and me, believe it or not, you and I could learn how to use the drag and drop tools to build simulations.
Right.
So it's kind of I tell people, if they've heard of AutoCAD, it's like AutoCAD, but for simulation development. So there's 3D asset libraries.
All your blocks.
There's all the blocks plus the physics, right? So the incredible, the engine understands. It understands voltage and watts and amps and water, hydraulic pressures and physics and all this stuff. Even some of our simulations, we know on a chain sling how there's a lot of calculations going on. What is the strength of that chain? That link. And so we probably have several dozen people building content every day in pods. There's 5-person pods, and they're using that tool. So that typically includes an instructional designer, a producer. It's kind of like building a movie, it's, so anyways, that technology was a big reason we needed something like that to build the simulations we want to build more, at a faster clip. And then, that's actually why we first started chatting. And then, Doug and I and kind of our leadership teams, as we got to know each other, were like, wow, there's a bigger opportunity here to really go be the premium provider of learning solutions for the frontline worker, the skilled workforce across residential, commercial, and industrial.
This video is sponsored by High Level. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield.
I
like that.
So that was the game plan. And, our latest investor that helped pay for the acquisition, plus our latest growth round was Goldman Sachs. They have this inclusive growth fund. That's a big element of it is, the education. And then obviously we're a very, very big focus on the skilled workforce education. Right. So it's been interesting. Our company culture is coming together. It's a fantastic business case study because we were, organically funded and had about maybe 70 people or so when we were acquired, and very financially prudent and whatnot. And it's not to say Interplay is not financially prudent, but like there as a VC, private equity or VC backed company, you just get to operate in a very different way.
They've got more money to invest in
totally
ideas.
Right. So we've got great runway and, incredible fit. We service, like I said, manufacturers like, Boeing or Tesla or whatever, or Exxon Mobil's of the world, those companies. And then a lot of, facilities maintenance contractors, residential, commercial contractors, even retail companies and distribution, like warehousing companies, et cetera. So it's really, the cross section of the worker is anything having to do with electrical, mechanical, and load handling, really.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yep.
So let's go back to you being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because we've got a lot of entrepreneurs that message us all the time, like, how do I start? How do I do this? How do I do that? Your parents had ran the business, and you had worked there. So, pretty much you didn't have to just learn how to start a business.
That's right. Yeah.
But you brought in a growth mindset.
Yeah.
How did you look at growth? How did you look at it? Like, look, we need to grow. If we're not growing up, we're not progressing, which we all want progress.
Yeah.
When you walked in and looked at it, what were the things that you saw that, look, here's what we're not doing right, or here's what we could do better?
Funny, first of all, it was all guess and check. Like I went through undergrad in business and economics and whatnot. I ended up getting a MBA, which my biggest regret, by the way, is I should have gotten I wish I would have gotten like a computer science or mechanical engineering degree and then an MBA, but that's long gone. So I should not have doubled up on those two things, but it was as I came in the door, like I had the chance to learn. I remember in the first week, I got to kind of hop around different departments and whatnot. We had about 12 people or so very small company. I remember our top salesperson had a big drawer of folders, and it was her pipeline, and I basically every folder, and this thing came out the whole stretch, right, 2 or 3 feet, and it was company A, B, C, D, and mostly like large enterprise clients is who we serve. Like that's who can really afford advanced training.
Oh yeah,
And I was like, that's great. Like, and we had I think at the time we had about 4 or 5 instructors that were booked out, usually 2 or 3 months in advance. Okay. So then I basically just asked, what's the status of those opportunities? And I had come from a, sales background and whatnot and pipeline management and stuff. And she said, I just kind of wait for them to call back, was the answer. And I was like, oh my gosh. I've done cold calling, I've done all this stuff, and that was a gold mine. Right. And I think, a lot of, I've not talked to my parents about this, but they were very happy with the growth rate. They were very happy with the the mandate wasn't grow.
Sustainability is fine with a lot of people.
Totally.
And they're like, look, I don't want to grow. I don't want to get bigger. I don't want to take on more people. I don't want to take on more challenges.
That's it.
It is. It's a very standard mindset.
Yeah, that's right. They were very, business threw off a lot of cash. They were very happy. They had been running the business for 20 some years at that point, and so great business. And yeah, I think when I joined, I was probably the first overhead person they really added. We had trainer instructors,
right,
and we really had, sales, one or two sales related people, a training center manager and whatnot. But I was the first person that was excess. I got to go to market strategy and think about product and all that stuff. So one of the first things I did was just scale up the revenue org, right? So we implemented Salesforce.com and HubSpot as our marketing engine. And I think we grew the sales team pretty quickly. Within a few years, we probably had 5 or 6 folks. Again, not
instead of one.
Yeah, and it's not that quickly to me,
right,
as a family business. But it's again trying to maintain profitability and growing at about 20%. So that was the first project, and then really started looking at the product mix, the solution mix, and had investigated simulators at the time and had looked at other locations. But I think one of the breakthroughs I had was from others was just we have to become a IT ready company. That obviously in the 2000 was the .com bubble and whatnot. But I remember reading an article from The Economist around 2012, 2014, somewhere in there. It was called From Diggers to Data Centers. And the idea was corporate investment was going to go big time from capital equipment, like diggers, to data and IT, right? So, I really drank the Kool-Aid when it came to, Mark Benioff and the Salesforce.com SaaS model and all that. And big time marketing guy. I love content marketing. I think my parents did a great job of content marketing for the longest time.
So it's funny.
So, yeah.
Constant Contact.
Yeah.
Alex, the guy who created the SaaS program, is a friend of mine.
No kidding.
And listening to him, sitting and talking to him about the way he started, the way he did it. And he's like, look, we're building something that had never been built.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah. In retrospect, it's funny. You go read about how HubSpot or Salesforce came to market. It seems so obvious, but Siebel Systems and Oracle were crushing it, in the 80s and 90s. I think Salesforce was started in 99 or 01, somewhere in there. And it to move from on-premise stuff, all your IT on-premise, to a browser was shocking to people. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that same thesis is true today. We have to not just have our back office be IT ready, meaning that can our back office easily now take from Salesforce the AI tools they have available? Can we quickly deploy those and gain the efficiency we're supposed to? But also the frontline worker, that's what I'm passionate about, is the skilled workforce. We want them to be happy doing their job, low efficiency, low inefficiencies and pain points. And they need to have just-in-time information, all that stuff. So, obviously a lot of companies have invested quite a bit the past 5 or 10 years in digitizing that worker, right?
Yep.
And depending on the work stream. But yeah, there was a lot to do, and I learned a lot. I definitely have some things I would have done majorly different, but it was a great learning experience. Yeah.
So you said growing 20%. Was that right after you went to work there? Or is that 5 years later after you kind of started implementing changes?
No, I think we probably hit that sort of growth rate within a year or two. And they probably, I remember I've got actually a revenue graph from 86 to present. And there was definitely maybe a 5% growth rate, but then some plateaus, right? You kind of hit
you bet.
At 5 people, you hit a plateau. At 20 people, you hit a plateau, and so on. You just got to, break the rubber band and start over and
wind it a little tighter.
That's right. Yeah, totally. So yeah, I think by 2012 or 2011, we were getting to that 15 to 20%. And some years, I think 2013 specifically might have been there's a major oil and gas issue, right? And prices came way down. We might have had a 4% growth rate that year, right? Or something small. So
it always fluctuates, but as long as, and I was with Brendan Burchard and Ed Milet last week, and he's talking about, you have your level, then you hit a pit, you have problems, you come back up, you hit a pit, and it's just back and forth. And I like that you said the levels come back up. It's okay to go down 4% if you come up 15.
Yeah.
it's okay to come down 10% if you come back up 20.
That's right.
And, a lot of people are like, let's just get back to where we were. Let's just get back to where we were. No. How do you get beyond that?
Yeah.
And I love it in marketing. I teach entrepreneurs, whatever your revenue is, invest 10% in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's going to help you stay where you're at. It's going to help you get a little bit of growth, but that's going to help you maintain really good because you're going to keep being in front of new people.
Yeah.
But when you want to grow, don't invest 12%, 10%, invest 12 until the 12 becomes 10.
Sure.
So if you're doing $1 million a year and you're investing 1.2 million, or not 1.2, $120,000 in marketing.
Yep.
And people say, man, that's a lot of money. I understand. But if that gets you from 1 million to 1.2, is it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
So now that 120,000 is 10% of the 1.2.
Yeah.
Now do you still want to grow?
Yeah.
Now go to 1.4.
Yeah.
Keep going because that's going to help keep you progressing.
Yeah.
And 20% a year is tough to do.
Sure.
But it can be done.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we definitely had those investment periods where we had to, in our business at the time, it was really about getting the right people, like reshuffling the team, making sure not shuffling entirely, but like you got to kind of rethink about, okay, now that we're twice as big as we were, what does the company really need in terms of the team to double again, So that's one thing I think entrepreneurs and CEOs really struggle to do. We were talking about Lencioni last night. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is a great book about that story. Like the story talks about how the company got bought and the old CEO decided to go into a sales manager role. He didn't think he should be on some sort of leadership team anymore. And it was this reflection that the whole leadership team figured out, like, yeah, you're best serving the business right now for our next 3 years in that role, So it's about company first and what's the North Star, what's the vision. And then, what team do you need in place to do that? And plus it's not just team investments. It's is it marketing? Is it software? Right. Yes. Totally.
And I like that too, because the company that helps you get to $1 million, the office staff, the management team, that's probably not the same team that's going to help you get to 10.
Yeah, that's right.
And the team that helps you get to 10 is probably not the same one that's going to help you get to 50.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to look at that and understand it and say, hey, look, we're doing pretty good here.
Yeah.
But like Jim Collins says, there's a difference in good to great.
Yep.
A big difference.
Yeah.
And you've got to figure out how to go there and do that.
Yeah, totally.
So getting ready to sell your company, what was that like?
We were in a space, I think there's a lot of dry powder in the private equity markets, and there still is. Private equity's it's been cold for a few years, but it's picking back up again. But if you think about it, 2017 to 2020, there's an incredible amount of dry powder, meaning money ready to acquire companies.
Oh, yeah.
So we would get us with every other, small, medium business would, get 2 or 3 emails a week asking for a meeting. And if you're interested in this or that, so we eventually, what I had done at that point was we literally made an intake form we called it an investor intake form, and had redirected those people to this form, which is 7 or 8 questions, and decide if we want to take the meeting out, because we kind of knew that, we might want to take on a 20% partner if it does help us grow more. And we would talk about that as a leadership team and all that. But so we kind of had that in place. We were almost acquired. It was a really interesting story. We were almost acquired in 2020 before a big thing happened in the world. And that COVID basically caused that deal to fall apart because just the uncertainty. And
which is crazy, because that probably helped you grow.
Totally. It was a blessing in disguise, man. It could have been, who knows how it could have worked out, but in retrospect, Interplay and ITI, the combination, we couldn't, our COO of ITI just retired, Tim Larson. He was our internal sage. This guy, he was the chief procurement officer for a $5 billion food business. He was the procurement and operations for H&R Block, just very seasoned guy. But he basically is described to our team as we were leading up to the discussions with Interplay, we probably couldn't have found a better jigsaw fit, in terms of, again, the team, the culture, the needs of both companies. Interplay really wanted to get into the industrial space, and ITI needed the technology and the scale they had, and also the financing ability and all that. So like, great fit. So I guess my point is we were sort of prepared. I'd had 5 or 6 years of conversations with different PE firms. I think on my Microsoft OneNote, I probably have like 75 PE firm tabs, right? That it's just, and learned a lot.
Some are serious, some aren't.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I learned a tremendous amount of that. I read a great book on VC and PEs oh my gosh, the deals, VC deals, I think. And just, my background, I never got to learn that stuff initially, but, learned a lot since. And we did take on an investor in late 2020. So we had I told you about this last night. We had a company that, Mazzella Companies, they manufacture overhead cranes and rigging equipment and so on. They're a big company. And they were going to become a much bigger customer of ours for internal training, plus a channel partner. They wanted to start selling a lot of our training to end users. And our families kind of go way back, and the Mazzella family was like, hey, could we also put some skin in the game? Was the thing. And we're like, some growth equity from a very passive, excited channel partner is a good idea, So it was a small stake, but I think that was late 2020. And then, so that was another experience that we kind of went through a process with them, and they're very astute business people. But also not looking at it entirely like private equity looks at everything, of course, it's a lot of just financial analysis.
You bet.
And it's people, I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs understand that PE firms and VCs are managing a fund, right? So like there's a fund of money, a pool of money, like, call it, $500 million. And they're intended to make, 20, 30 bets out of that pool. And that sort of dictates the check size they can write and the deal terms they need. And they need to deploy that money over, typically, 3 or 4 years. And they need to hold those companies and make, turn them over, sell them again within, 3 to 8 years, depending, on the company.
Normally 4 or 5 times the price.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then talk about leverage. We're talking about corporate credit.
Oh, yeah.
It's a leverage game typically, which really accelerates they don't actually have to grow the equity value, right? They got to grow the enterprise value. So if they're using debt, they can accelerate that much more. But, so anyways, we went through those series of processes. And then, like I described earlier, we started talking with Interplay about using their simulation design tool, that I described. And then the conversation just grew from there. And it was just a great, looking back still after it hasn't been a year, it's been about 7 or 8 months, but there's no lack of synergy, misunderstanding. We're going through the standard, like integrating 2 companies, and we got about 300 people in total now. So like that's standard and normal. But, yeah, it was interesting. I would, there's a lot of private equity money. We were talking about this last night, that a lot of pressure on mid-market companies and small, medium businesses. I just saw the head of former, like co-founding team of, was it Apollo? One of those, massive PE firms. He started a kind of after he bought the Washington Redskins and some others, like he started this mid-market new fund, a new company. And it's just like, eventually there's a point where companies are too big that they're not going to get similar growth rates. They got to go public, right? There's an IPO market, of course, for that reason. But a lot of value can be found and created always in startups, of course, which are hyper risky, but then even small, medium businesses in mid-market, which a lot of our service contractors are in. So we've just noticed we've got a lot of customers that do a great job building a business, and there's a lot of private equity that have come in to roll up in the plumbing or electrical or maintenance space, et cetera, and they can do really well because the market's very fragmented, right? There might be a handful of HVAC companies in every town in America, and that there's good and bad, right? It's like it's what the market is, and I think the big question for an entrepreneur is like, what are your goals in life? Like, you got to start there. Are you trying to grow a business and to scale it?
Right.
Like my parents, they were very happy with the business, right?
And
so
there's nothing wrong with that.
Totally.
When it comes to residential service companies, I teach a lot of them, don't just roll up, roll out.
Yeah.
Instead of buying more plumbing companies, if you buy an HVAC company, an electrical company, a roofing company, a garage door company.
Totally.
Now you're a home service company.
Yeah.
Now you literally look at it and say, okay, what if we marketed the plumbing company to the electrical, the HVAC, the garage door, everything.
Yeah.
Now you're for each one of your companies, you're buying a whole new customer base that all you have to do is use constant contact or go high level or something and say, hey, we now offer this service.
Yeah.
It's a company we've vetted. We've actually acquired them. We've done this. They're part of the team now. Next time we send a plumber out, if you'd like to have your HVAC inspected, your electrical inspected, whatever it is inspected, we can do that.
Yeah, totally.
And then you use it. You know, we had hailstorms here 2.5 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those houses in your area had hailstones too at every company.
Yeah.
So now you send out a massive email. Hey guys, remember, this is Roger over at Texas Green Plumbing. We also do roofs now.
Yep.
We've got a guy. We acquired a company. We are the guy.
Yeah.
If you had problems and you want a company you trust, let us know. We'd love to come out and just give you a free inspection.
Totally.
You can own the world.
Totally. You know what's driving that as well is like we have I'm sure you're aware, we got a skilled labor shortage.
Yeah.
So
me and Dr. Phil talked about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. It's like we've got a massive labor shortage, and frankly, birth rates are going down, unfortunately, and there's this movement, Deloitte and others cover this, called the skills-based organization, mm-hmm. right? And historically we've had very job-specific roles, and I'm going to prepare you to become an HVAC technician,
and that, not only that, nothing else.
Yeah, that's right. Right. And then we had the demand for that. It was clear and cut, whatever. There is a major movement in the knowledge worker world, as well as the frontline worker, towards a skills-based organization, which means we're really trying to understand, from who is Zach, what are Zach's competencies. So the organization might have, 1,000 skills, believe it or not, in their skills ontology. And there's some standard lists out there from Korn Ferry and others. It's like, these are all the skills that exist, and there's a standard list. This is where Zach scores on these skills that we care about scoring him on. Mm-hmm. And that helps then the workforce figure out, or the leadership team, how can Zach help the team? What project should he be on and not be on, et cetera. And, we're already starting to see that in the frontline workforce. So especially in trades that aren't like, it is easy for an electrician, a licensed electrician, to get cross-trained in HVAC.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because
90% of the problems are electrical.
That's right. Right.
I get it. Yeah. I'm a certified HVAC technician.
Yeah.
And I hate electricity.
Yeah.
I hate it. I feel like I've never wanted to be an electrician in my life.
Yeah.
But I know a lot about it from learning HVAC.
That's right. I mean, we hear this from big utilities that are doing this, plus, the companies like residential commercial contractors that want to cross-train people. And I think people love it. Like it kind of puts a partnership in play between the company and the employee to understand how do you want to grow? Do you want to learn some additional skills, et cetera? So talk about getting people that have a growth mindset. It's a really effective thing to be implementing, but you really have to be IT ready. You gotta somehow have a way to manage your skills, right? So there's systems out there for that. But I'd be curious, like in licensed trades, right? So electrician's a licensed trade through states, correct? Mm-hmm. And there's unions, of course. Like in union environments, it's impossible for a licensed electrician or a union journeyman electrician to be doing, a union pipe fitter work, correct? In most job sites.
It's not unheard of.
Sure.
Once you get your electrical license, mm-hmm. even if it's through the union, you could quit there, go to the plumbing union and say, hey, I want to start over as an apprentice. I want to learn.
Yeah.
But I do have skills in the trades.
Yeah.
I'm not virgin to a job site.
Yeah.
And now they're like, well, okay, let's move you up to a second year or third year.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move you up to a third year. Now you could do this. But one of the ideas I'm having listening to you is, look, what if I did all my electrical training online at home?
Yeah.
I'm a master plumber, but now I can do all this. Let me go to my local state. Let me call the TDLR and say, hey, I want to set for the electrical exam. I've done it for a year in the field. I've studied online. I can pass every test there is.
Yeah.
Let me come set for your test. And man, just opportunities.
There is. And I don't mean, I'm just a free thinker. So I love that. Can piss people off sometimes, but like,
I'm an expensive thinker. It normally costs me money because I come up with ideas.
Yeah. That's expensive. I'm an idea. My brother is a West Point grad civil engineer. He calls me an idea fairy, which is,
hey, there's nothing wrong with it.
So yeah, the union, union job sites, I do wonder, and I've got a lot of folks in Washington at the, with OE and iron workers, et cetera. And I'm really curious how they're thinking about a skills-based future potentially. It is like, I think unions will adjust over time, of course, to some degree. I don't know if you've seen any examples of union job task overlap where someone could be in one union.
No.
Yeah.
So and I say no, let me correct that. Combi locals, combination.
Okay. Yeah.
Here in Dallas, the local is plumbers, pipe fitters, and welders.
Sure.
So Randy, my son, you met him earlier, Squirt. He's a licensed pipe fitter. He was a pipe fitter in the union. That's what his book said. That's what his card said.
Yep.
But Randy also got an apprentice card, and he could go in the field as a plumber.
Yeah.
So if they sent him out on a job as an apprentice and they needed him to be a plumber that day, like you got your apprentice card, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, okay, we need you to work with the plumbers today.
Sure. And
when I was a superintendent at one of the large contractors, we had plumbing, electrical, and HVAC. Mm-hmm. So if I was the main superintendent on the job, all these crews worked under me.
Yeah.
So when it came time for me to take my HVAC exam, which I wanted to do, I was able to get them to sign off on my hours because I'd been over HVAC crews, even though it wasn't residential.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about an evaporator and a condenser, but I was able to go in for 12 days, 12 Saturdays in a row, study safety, electrical, gases, and all this, and then go through the shops and do all the work. And it's like, okay, this is great. Cool thing about it, that was about 20 years ago, we had online training too, where you could go sit down and diagnose a system.
Sure.
And it wasn't VR. You just had a computer. Click here. What do you do first?
Yep.
Do you do this or this or this? Do you do this or this or this? So that was really neat. Mm-hmm. This video is sponsored by High Level. We've partnered up with High Level because we believe this is the best all-in-one sales and marketing platform to help you grow your business. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. Take a minute again. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, where you work, what all you do.
Zach Parnell again. So I'm with Interplay Learning, and part of the reason I am curious about where we're going. Like, I get to work on strategy and think about Wayne Gretzky quotes. Where's the hockey puck going?
Going to be.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about
where
the hockey puck is. I'm worried about where it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been really.
We think a lot alike like that.
Yeah. And, it's been a blast because I was a owner-operator for the last 15 years or so at ITI. And as I've joined Doug and the leadership team at Interplay, it's a blessing to take a step back out of the day-to-day operations Doug's afforded me to do this is hey, let's think big picture. Let's think longer term down the road. And we have an innovation, technical innovation team as well, which is, more technology stuff. But so, anyways, when I think about the skills-based future, I'm curious and I'm excited to have more conversations with union leaders and whatnot. I think in the environments I've seen it already happening are definitely utilities, maintenance teams. It's easy to cross train, like we talked about, different electrical, mechanical roles. But I think one of the challenges is people aren't. It's the reason the saying is "jack of all trades, master of none" is I don't know if you're a master plumber, if you passed the HVAC test and even did HVAC for full time for 2 years, do you still know how to do all the plumbing steps? Or how much do you retain or how much do you lose? How could a person, kick your butt, be more productive if they've been doing it day to day? So I'm just throwing out it's an interesting.
I like the way you're thinking because I sold my company 3 years ago. So I have not done a job. And even I was in the office for 2 or 3 years before that.
Yeah.
I still do videos every day, or not every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still around plumbing. I'm still seeing plumbing, but I'm not doing it. I'm not a plumber. I'm not out in the field diagnosing problems.
Yeah.
But I did it for years and I was really, really good at it.
Yeah.
So I love the way you're thinking, but to me, it's all trades related.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk to people about YouTube, all I did is I got new tools.
Sure.
I got new tools in my toolbox.
Yeah.
And I learned how to use them just like I would if you came up and gave me an underground boring machine, which I've never used.
Yeah.
If you said, hey, here's a new plumbing tool, learn how to use it.
Yeah.
Okay. This makes a hole and it comes up where I want it to come up. And boom, boom, boom. I learned how to use digital marketing and social media and cameras and different things like that. And that's what I tell people when I'm trying to teach them social media. It's like, look, this is just new tools.
Yeah.
This is all it is.
Yep.
So how can people get in touch with you if they wanted to find out how to get in
I'm on
the learning, the education, anything?
I'm on LinkedIn, Zach Parnell. There's not too many of us on there, but ITI.com still is one of our domains, then interplaylearning.com. And it's funny. I am doing quite a bit of research, and there's more research to be doing. So I'm going to do a lot of interviews with managers and maintenance managers, company owners, et cetera, to understand the problem set. But yeah, it's a blast what we're doing. We've got an aggressive growth plan, as you can imagine, for the next 3 or 4 years. And closing the loop on the skills-based org, like that's where we feel our customers are pulling us to is really helping them create really efficient learning paths. I don't care if it's a person off the street. We've got pre-apprentice, 50-hour to 80-hour programs that's e-learning and simulation based before they start a job. And then onboarding, the first 4 weeks of training plus thereafter. And we partner with a lot of unions and supply union apprenticeships with content, even print curriculum, but mostly, simulation based content that augments the training they're doing. So, and what's really fun is bringing all that together and working with, learned a lot from some of the best run companies in the world, that are dealing with, a few thousand people at a plant times 10 locations, but then taking that knowledge and know-how of how we do that and bringing it to a 40-person, contractor. So it's fun. It's our mission is better careers, better lives, and I love that because it perfectly captures, the people that we have on our team and what we're trying to do for the employers and the people that we serve. So it's good.
So tell me about the best day you've had at work.
Yeah, man. I love that problem solving piece. When there's an unlock with a customer, that, can't name brands, but imagine, a customer that has a major problem that hey, we've seen this problem, 200 times and this is the way you solve it. And it's just a big unlock for that person. And I don't care if it's Amazon or again, a ABC HVAC, right? It's making people's, helping them get to their business goals is huge, right? So I get to do that with both customers and then even internal customers. We're working on some really cool internal things, helping our customers how to figure out apprenticeships, which I think every small to medium market company should think about apprenticeships, getting them in place. We have literally the toolbox you can take off the shelf to start a pre-apprenticeship or an apprenticeship program. So I just love helping customers and internal or external customers unlock things. What's challenging is there's some major headwinds facing our economy. And, we talked about electricity. We don't have enough electricity coming forward. I think China's going to within a few years have, I can't remember if they're building, I think they're building in the next 5 years as much electricity capacity that we currently have. You can imagine that. So we're not building fast enough. We're not developing people as we should. I think that's really swinging back with, there's a lot of people really second guessing the college imperative.
Good.
Yeah. I've seen it. It's
I
great.
don't mean it bad, but
no, absolutely. People, yeah. So we really encourage employers to you can't rely on the education system anymore. You have to
It's jacked up.
You got to become excellent at having entry level roles. And unfortunately or fortunately, most companies aren't prepared to do that. It's like it's less than like a third of companies have like entry level, no experience required roles in the trades. I don't remember the exact stat, but it's not a lot. And that's challenging because, people are looking for, if you really want to, you got to become an owner of your pipeline, your recruiting pipeline. So to do that, you got to have, the right way to bring them up to speed. Mm-hmm. How can they add value within a month? How can they add value after 2 years or 3 years and so on? And we think that's a big key. And obviously becoming an owner of not just that recruiting phase, but the whole development phase. We have a maturity model that we use to help customers reflect on how they're performing. And it's kind of like a skilled workforce maturity model that includes recruit, ramp, results, retain. And there's problems that companies underperform in each of those things. So like recruiting, most skilled trades companies are not good at recruiting. So the two main problems are they got low candidate volume, and also it's tough. I mean, we call it mismatched or incorrect hires, basically. So even if you get a person, a lot of times we see that we've got big construction companies that are hiring who they think is a journeyman carpenter. They get them out to a job site a few hundred miles away, and they demote the person within 2 weeks. So that's a flaw. So what we do is we have key metrics that are inside those stages and have methods of how do you improve on those things, right?
Very good.
Yeah.
Tell me about your worst day over at work.
Oh boy. I mean, just like any, it's funny. Little sidetrack. If you want to watch Worst Day at Work movie, I just finished the Uber, the Super Pumped movie. I think Quentin Tarantino did it. And it's about Uber and all these disasters that they self-inflicted.
You bet.
And I was just thankful that we've had plenty of disasters, but nothing to that sort of scale. But it was, I think the most painful parts of running a business is just, when people don't meet expectations. So if we got expectations around our values of telling the truth or hard work or whatever, it's just painful. You don't want to take it personally, but there's just pain points there when it's that we call it, Lencioni calls it just organizational dysfunction.
Right. So
there's gossip or people that are confused, like not self-serving them. So like, I'm a firm believer that the best people on any team don't need a lot of management. Like that's a Steve Jobs quote. Mm-hmm. And so we've really, as part of one of our unlocks as a company was the top grading hiring process. Like we implemented that in 2015 or so, and it really forces hiring managers to specify much better than just a job description. What's the job scorecard? What are the key results you need from this role? What are their behavioral competencies and technical competencies? What are the company values, of course?
Right.
And you really interview on that, and it just really helps make sure you're finding the best of the best. And it's just better to find and wait for the A player versus hire a B or a C player. So I think
absolutely.
I think to say it plainly, dealing with love to help people that want to be helped, and there's no ethical or moral value issues. But like when you've made a bad decision, which is ultimately on me, if you hire someone that's
the end of the day,
the
buck
right?
stops here.
That's right. So, I just think people issues and it's very far. I've been very lucky. It's been very few and far in between. So but that's probably when someone really lets you down, that's a bummer.
Oh, yeah. I
So
agree.
how about you? What's your worst day in your career ever?
I'm lucky to say it's been nothing I've been a part of, but I mean, when you're on job sites where people die,
totally.
Never forget that.
Yeah.
When you're on job sites when people get severely injured and you know it.
Yeah.
And those are probably the worst, and the best are just being able to take care of customers in a way that they didn't expect.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We've got customers that, they got a 300-ton crane that just went down in a wind farm,
Yep.
and
What do we do?
Or I remember just last fall, I was talking to a big nuclear power station maintenance manager doing an interview, and they just lost a unit. They had a major snafu, and the unit was going to be, one of their reactors was going to be down for a few weeks, and not a happy day.
Absolutely.
And yeah, in the training world, we deal with nothing compared to the people that actually do the work,
in
right?
the field.
Yeah. I mean,
I get it.
And I think that one of the best things we've done is like in terms of training our people is getting them out to the Kiewit job site or out to the Blue Origin factory or whatever. Like we obviously we're interfacing with our customers all the time, but like getting in the weeds with them and understanding what are they really doing on a day-to-day basis is invaluable. You just can't watch Dirty Jobs or Micro enough to get it. You got to go experience.
Oh yeah, you got to be in the field doing it.
Totally. Yeah.
So, Zach, this has been fun.
Yeah. I appreciate
you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.